days. Don't be left behind. Join the new normal of digital world. Let radio and television be at your fingertips. Get news and current events, entertainment, sports, kiddies programs, and more at your beck and call on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Just visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms. Then you are a global citizen. Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Voice of the voiceless.
It is essential to be up to date on happenings around you, and to make that easy for you, ladies and gentlemen, we present Freshlight, where we bring fresh newspaper headlines to the limelight. Mondays to Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Watch, like, subscribe, and make sure your notification is activated on our YouTube channel. You can also like and comment on our pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio.
A beautiful morning to you, a Monday morning, the 18th day in the month of September 2023, and happy resumption to every pupil or student that have resumed today. We pray that God will continue to provide for the parents to continue their education. All right, you're welcome to Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. This is where we take you through some of the headlines and prominent stories in our dailies. And of course, to keep you updated and abreast of what is going on, either in the country or outside the country. Welcome to Freshlight. My name is MODUPE AKINYOSOYE. And as usual, I have a couple of newspapers with me, which we will be perusing and be checking through the front pages of them. And of course, go through some of the stories that were published today. All right, I have the Nation newspaper, I have Daily Trust newspaper, I have the Punch newspaper, I have the Vanguard newspaper. Without further ado, we kickstart the review, and we pick up the Punch newspaper. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper. You get to see the largest headline right here saying marketers eye fresh fuel price hike as crude eats $94. You get that with double riders, and the details on page 2 in the Punch newspaper. Also from the front page of the Punch, Umayuwu's presidency as contractors oppose concrete roads. You have that on page 2 as well in the Punch newspaper. 12.5 kg cooking gas price may hit 18,000 naira December. The rather shocking story from the page 27 in the Punch newspaper. Federal government, Labour meets today on post-subsidy talks. You have that on page 7 in the Punch newspaper. Away from that, also looking at the stories or headlines we have on the front page of the Punch. NDLEA rescues pregnant teenagers, arrests suspected drug traffickers. You have that Metro story on page 5 in the Punch newspaper. Away from that, Oyomesi awaiting Makinde on new Alafi, says Bashir. And you have that on page 7 as well in the Punch newspaper. 2 hospitalized as 500-room Lagos building collapses. That rather sad story on page 4 and 5 in the Punch newspaper. And on Cardoso, National Assembly plans quick screening and private sector demands reforms. You have that on page 3 in the Punch newspaper. And of course, you get to see pictures of the NDLEA rescuing the pregnant teenagers and arrest suspected drug traffickers right on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And quickly going through the Punch newspaper, let's see a couple of the stories to keep ourselves updated. We have a report. Let's start with this very story from the Punch that says from the business page, marketers eye fuel price hike as crude eats $94. The rise in the cost of crude oil, coupled with the depreciation of the naira against the United States dollar, might lead to a hike in the pump price of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, oil marketers stated on Sunday. It was also gathered that a sharp rise in crude oil price to about $94 per barrel, and the crisis around Forex had warranted a gradual increase in the amount being quietly spent as subsidy on petrol or by the federal government. Dealers in the downstream oil sector explained that the cost of crude oil and the exchange rate of a dollar accounted for over 80% of the cost of PMS. You get the analysis of that very business story in the business page of the Punch newspaper. Marketers eye fresh fuel price hike as crude eats $94. Away from that, we have this not cheering news, not a welcoming news for all Nigerians, especially Nigerians that consume the cooking gas for cooking. 12.5 kg cooking gas price may hit 18,000 naira in December. The Punch newspaper captures that very story. Gas retailers have warned that the price of 12.5 kg cooking gas may hit 18,000 naira by December if the federal government does not restrict the activities of the terminal owners. The president, Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, Olatunbosi Oladapo, told the Punch on Sunday that the price of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas, has gone astronomically high at terminals as a result of a sudden increment from between 9 to 10 million naira per 20 metric tons to 14 million naira per 20 metric tons. And according to him, terminal owners were hiding under the guise of high foreign exchange to increase price to further increase the suffering of the masses. From the Punch, you get the details of that very story. Why 12.5 kg cooking gas price may hit 18,000 naira in December. Away from that very story, we also have from the Metro page of the Punch, this rather sad one. 2 hospitalized as 500-room Lagos building collapses. A building with over 500 rooms has collapsed in the Ketu area of Lagos State. According to findings by Punch Metro, at least 2 persons are currently battling for their lives at a private hospital after the school-turned-residential building partially collapsed on Saturday. The building, housing hundreds of residents located at Boye Estate on Odunton Street, Ketu, first caved in on Saturday afternoon following hours of rainfall that greeted most parts of Lagos. On Sunday afternoon, as residents were still trying to salvage their belongings, the building crumbled again, destroying another structure inside the compound before collapsing completely. From the Punch, 2 hospitalized as 500-room Lagos building collapses. The Punch captures that Metro story. And quickly taking this one as well from the Punch on palliative diversion. Police urge Nigerians to ignore viral video. The police in Katsina State has urged Nigerians to ignore a video on social media alleging the diversion of palliatives by its officers. This is contained in a statement issued by the police public relations officer in Katsina, ASP Ali Sadiq. The police said that the video was not only misleading but aimed at tarnishing the good image of the police. On palliative diversion, police urge Nigerians to ignore viral video. The Punch newspaper captured that story. And also we have this report from the Punch that says discourse to resume meter deployment. Electricity distribution companies will resume distribution of prepaid meters under the Meter Asset Provide program this week, the Punch has learned. And this was revealed by the head metering team for Ikeja Electric, Morenikeji Amosun, at a virtual stakeholders forum. While giving an update on IE's metering efforts to customers during the meeting, Amosun said a new set of meters had been imported under the program and deployment would resume. From the Punch newspaper, discourse to resume meter deployment. You get the details of that very story. And also picking the story from the Punch, this says 23 states grow foreign loans by 64%. 23 Nigerian states grew bilateral loans by 64.26% in 6 months to $462.81 million as of the end of June. Most of the loans were taken from China, India, France, and other countries. And this was despite the persistent fall of the naira, making dollar-denominated loans more expensive. In June 2023, the Central Bank of Nigeria directed deposit money banks to remove the rate cap on the naira at the official investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market. 23 states grow foreign loans by 64%. The Punch newspaper capture that very story. Moving away from the Punch, let's see what we have in the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's get to see the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. All right, we have Auditors General's absent stalls audit of MDAs for 3 years. You have that with several riders. You get the details on page 4 in the Daily Trust newspaper. Airstrikes destroy over 30 illegal oil refining sites in rivers. You have that on page 10 in the Daily Trust newspaper. Also from the front page, 2.34 trillion naira spent on debt servicing in 6 months. DMO revealing that from page 15 in the Daily Trust newspaper. Tinubu appoints 2 ministers for youth ministry. You have that on page 3 in the Daily Trust newspaper. And also FCTA to remove attached shops at Area A complex. Page 32 captures that very story. Federal government invites Labour for fresh meeting to avert strike. You have that on page 3 as well in the Daily Trust. Nigeria, Cuba signed MOU on food security and agri advancement rather. And you have that on page 7, page 10 rather in the Daily Trust newspaper. And also from the front page, flood destroys over 100 houses in Plateau. You have that on page 22 and you get to see the picture of the flood destroying over 100 houses in Plateau right on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And quickly going through the pages of the Daily Trust, we'll start with this very story on subsidy. NLC to honor federal government's invitation for talks, but adamant on demand. We have that with Rider. Minister moves to stave off another strike. Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, yesterday disclosed its readiness to attend a meeting called by the federal government for Monday to try to prevent an indefinite strike by the Congress in protest at unresolved issues relating to fuel subsidy removal. A top NLC member who pleaded to remain anonymous told This Day that a meeting with Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, would focus on the massive suffering and hunger in the country caused by the increase in fuel prices. And the source said it was for this reason that the union went on one strike on September 5 and 6. On subsidy, NLC to honor federal government invitation for talks, but adamant on demand. The This Day captures that very story. Away from that, we also have reports here that says Nigerian Armed Forces Stand for Democracy, CDS declares, with a rider, vows to deal decisively with threats to national security. The Chief of Defense Staff, CDS, General Christopher Musa, yesterday declared that the Armed Forces of Nigeria, AFN, remained in support of sustained democratic rule in the country. Speaking at a meeting with military commanders in Abuja, the defense chief, who vowed to deal decisively with threats to national security, said security forces must do all it takes to ensure that democracy thrives in Nigeria. Musa warned that terrorists, armed bandits, and kidnappers will not be spared. Nigeria Armed Forces Stand for Democracy, CDS, declares from the Daily Trust newspaper. Away from that, we have this very report that Tinubu nominates Jamila Ibrahim, Ayodele Olawande as ministers, with the riders sent their names to Senate for confirmation. President Bola Tinubu has approved the nomination of Dr. Jamila Ibrahim as the Minister of Youth, pending confirmation by the Senate in line with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The President, according to a release issued on Sunday by his media advisor, Chief Ajirin Kalali, also approved the nomination of Mr. Ayodele Olawande as the Minister of State for Youth, pending his confirmation by the Senate. President Tinubu charged the 2 nominees to ensure that they consistently reflect the dynamism, innovative deal, and unyielding productivity that are synonymous with the young people of Nigeria as they discharge their duties. From the This Day, Tinubu nominates Jamila Ibrahim, Ayodele Olawande as ministers. And also talking about nomination, Tinubu nominates Al-IyamoyeTv as new CBN governor with a double riders, appoints 4 new deputy governors for the Apex Bank, seeks Senate confirmation of nominees. President Bola Tinubu has approved the nomination of Dr. Al-IyamoyeTv Cardoso to serve as the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, for a term of 5 years. At the first instance, Cardoso was at various times chairman of Citibank and also served as commissioner for budget and national planning when President Tinubu was governor of Lagos State 1999 to 2007. And the nomination of Cardoso, who takes over from Mr. Gordon Emefiele, who has been on suspension as CBN governor since June 9, 2023, according to a release issued on Friday by presidential spokesperson Chief Ajiri Ngalale, will be forwarded to Senate for confirmation in line with provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Tinubu nominates Al-IyamoyeTv Cardoso as new CBN governor. This day graces that very story. And you have a report credited to the president that says, "I will permanently change Nigeria's narrative of poverty and insecurity." This comes with triple riders, vows to work hard with purpose, determination and dedication. Unlike predecessor, says nation not peopled by lazy citizens, pledges to reverse ugly trend and achieve possibilities. President Bola Tinubu yesterday promised to permanently change the country's ugly story of poverty, insecurity and underdevelopment, saying Nigeria has no business being in such situations. Tinubu spoke at State House Abuja when he received in audience a 62-man delegation of leaders from Rivers State who were on a courtesy visit to him, and he vowed to work hard with purpose, determination and dedication to reverse the current unpleasant socio-economic trend in the country and achieve possibilities or positivities. President, I will permanently change Nigeria's narrative of poverty and insecurity. The This Day captures that very story. And we have this also from the This Day. Mrs. Obasanjo begs Oyo Obas, Yoruba, over husband's action. Wife of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Mrs. Taiwo Obasanjo, yesterday sought the forgiveness of Oyo Obas and Yoruba race in general over a recent action of her husband, which publicly humiliated the traditional rulers. Obasanjo was special guest at the commissioning of projects by the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, had chastised some Yoruba traditional rulers for not standing up in reference to him respect as a former president and the governor. He consequently ordered them to stand up to recognize his presence. The developments, however, stirred immediate reaction across the board, with the likes of Yoruba Council worldwide, the Oluwo of Iwo, Oba Abdulrasheed Akombi and others calling Obasanjo to apologize within 3 days or face the consequences. The rest of that in the This Day newspaper. Mrs. Obasanjo begs Oyo Obas and Yoruba over husband's action from the This Day. We'll be back to take more headlines after this short commercial break. Still Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Stay with us.
Thousands have been disappointed severally in their bid to seek greener pasture abroad. To those quack in the traveling agency business, it is a rocket science. That is not our case at Tausaf Travels and Tour. We have in-depth details on how to successfully, without stress, help you process and secure your visa to anywhere in the world. Do you want permanent residential visa, visiting and tourism visa, student visa to places like Europe, America, Asia, Africa? It's no big deal to us at Tausaf Travels and Tour. Our years of experience and expertise speaks volume for us. Let's process and secure visa for you to UK, USA and Canada within a twinkle of an eye. We offer Hajj and Umrah services to our Muslim faithfuls. What are you waiting for? Consult us at number 9 Tausaf Central Mall, Sholanke Street, behind Laroy Hotel, Abiola Way, Abeokuta. 0802 733 0900 or 0806 578 4060. Stop wasting money. Pay for peace of mind. Talk to Tausaf Travels and Tour.
Gbogbo aláfẹ́ tó gbayì tó fẹ́ wọṣọ yìí ṣoge tó bágbà mu ló ń kọjá lọ sí House of Zion. House of Zayana, the name I know when we talk of top-notch fashion, quality materials and class. House of Zayana, Letima Rojulowo Turkey wears, Egypt and Malaysia clothing, Dubai, àwọn designer bags lóríṣiríṣi, àwọn ìtẹ̀lẹ̀ bàtà tó jiná tí wọ́n fawọ́ original ṣe, àwọn aago kájọ́ tó ń ka wákàtí ọjọ́, designer sunglasses and perfumes, pẹ̀lú àwọn gbogbo nǹkan tóbìnrin àsìkò fi ń gbafẹ́ lò gbà. Mo débẹ̀, ojú mi ń ṣe kámi, èmi ni ó rà, èmi ni ó mú. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin mùsùlùmí ẹlẹ́sìn tẹ́ gbòógè gbọ́n pa fashion tẹ́ wá nílò jàlábíà, hijab àti àbáyà lóríṣiríṣi. House of Zayana lẹ́ò ti rí gbogbo ẹ̀ rà. House of Zayana wà ní 52 Ọlọ́run ṣògo road adjacent Redeemed Church Agape Parish Ọlọ́run ṣògo Abẹ́òkúta. Lórí Instagram House of Zayana 08165688618. House of Zayana, ilé ìtajà tá a ti ń tojúlówó aṣọ àti nǹkan aṣaralóge tí ń gbéni níyì.
You're still on to Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, and still perusing the pages of Dailins this morning. We pick up the Vanguard newspaper. Let's see what we have at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Outrage as RMAFC defends jumbo pay of National Assembly and others. This comes with several riders. Page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper captures the details of that. Federal government inherited 14 trillion naira debt over 2,600 road project. Umahi saying that on page 27 in the Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria failed aviation safety audit. NCAT rector, page 25, captures that story. On student visa, UK hikes fees for Nigerians and others. Page 8 captures that very story. On impeachment move, senators disagree over plot to remove Akpabio. So page 27 graces that very story. Also from the front page of the Vanguard, 1.1 trillion naira anchors borrowers fund. Bank chiefs risk arrest. Page 30 captures that very story. And also on the business headline, pension contributors retirees agitate as unresolved complaints pile up. Page 19 captures that financial story from the Vanguard. Unical sex scandal. Women Affairs Minister apologizes. Page 8 has the details of that. And on strike, federal government invites NLC for meeting today. Page 9 has that story. Tinubu nominates Jamila Ibrahim, Youth Minister, Olawande, Minister of State. Page 9 also captures that report. And also you get to see sports headline, Nigerian boxers qualify for Paris 2024 Olympics. Page 31 captures that sports story. And of course, you get to see pictures of Godswill Akpabio, Senate President. You get to see the picture of Peter Obi and the picture of Adewale Smart or Yenride, NECA Director General, right on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Going through the Vanguard newspaper, let's see the stories we have from the Vanguard newspaper. We'll start with this very story. On anger as RMAFC, okay, anger as RMAFC defends jumbo pay as National Assembly members and others, pay of National Assembly members and others. Outrage yesterday greeted the justification of jumbo pay for National Assembly members and political office holders by the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC, which said the lawmakers do not earn outrageous salaries. RMAFC chairman Mohammed Shehu told NAN in Abuja that it was untrue that public office holders were getting jumbo salaries, saying, and I quote, "I want to disabuse the minds of Nigerians. It is not true that people were getting jumbo salaries." Last June, the RMAFC boss had said the salaries of politicians, judicial and public office holders would be increased by 114%. It said the salary of President Bola Tinubu was less than 1.5 million naira, while ministers earn less than 1 million naira. You get the rest of that very story in the Vanguard newspaper. Anger as RMAFC defends jumbo pay of National Assembly members and others. Away from that, on impeachment move, you get a report right here that says senators disagree over plot to remove Akpabio. This comes with double riders. Senate President hasn't committed any offense. Undumi says plot to sack him now will fail Akpabio insensitive to our concerns, aggrieved senators, revealing that. Senators yesterday sharply disagreed on moves to remove Senate President Godswill Akpabio over alleged romance with President Bola Tinubu, manipulation of screening of ministerial nominees, and creation of instability in the Red Chamber with the appointment of leaders of the various committees. Apart from allegedly sowing seeds of discord in the Senate by marginalizing some ranking senators in the chairmanship and vice chairmanship of a list committees, one of the aggrieved senators said Akpabio jokes too much, is insensitive and unreliable and must go. Specifically, one of them said some senators have started collecting signatures for Akpabio's removal ahead of the September 26th resumption. The rest of that you get to see in the Vanguard newspaper. Impeachment moves. Senators disagree over plot to remove Akpabio. Away from that, also from the Vanguard newspaper, we have a report here that says less than 40 million Nigerians paying tax. RMAFC boss laments. The chairman, Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Mohammed Shehu, said less than 40 million Nigerians are captured paying their taxes. And he said this while urging the citizens to endeavor to pay their taxes to boost governmental revenue and improve service delivery. Shehu made this known in an interview with the News Agency of Nigeria on Sunday, and also clarified the political office holders in Nigeria did not earn outrageous emoluments as speculated by the populace. Less than 40 million Nigerians paying tax. RMAFC boss laments, from the Vanguard newspaper. And we also have a statement on Obasanjo's humiliation of monarchs. Incident was unfortunate. Oyo Council of Obas reporting that with several writers to respond at appropriate time. Senility affecting ex-president, says Oyo monarch. Obasanjo desecrated our core values, YCE Napa revealing, as Taiwo Obasanjo begs for forgiveness. Those are the writers we have. And the story reveals that in the wake of the alleged ridiculing of some traditional rulers at Iseyin in Oyo State at the weekend, the Council of Obas and Chiefs in the state yesterday promised to respond to former President Olusegun Obasanjo at the appropriate time, noting that the incident was unfortunate. The former president, who was a guest of Governor Seyi Makinde, commanded traditional rulers to stand up, and after they complied, he then ordered them to sit down. In his reaction, the vice chairman of Oyo State Council of Obas and Chiefs, the Olugbon of Orile Igbon, Oba Francis Alao, said, and I quote, "Respect protocols. We will not explain what happened last Friday. It is unfortunate what happened. Members of the Oyo State Council of Obas are law-abiding citizens and we respect constituted authority. We are also leaders. We will respond at a later time, but not now." But one of the kings who attended the event, the Onekpetu of Ijeru Kingdom, Oba Sunday Oyediran, yesterday said the former president should not be taken seriously, adding that senility is affecting him. The rest of that very story in the Vanguard newspaper. Obasanjo's humiliation of monarchs. Incident was unfortunate. Oyo Council of Obas revealing that from the Vanguard. Away from the Vanguard, let's see what we have in the Nation newspaper. Let's go through the front page of the Nation newspaper. From the front page of the Nation, dispute stalls federal government Emefiele plea bargain talks. You have that with double riders. Suspended CBN governor may face trial, while deputy governors were dropped. Page 4 captures the details of that very story. Umahi says we inherited 6 trillion naira funding gap on 2,604 projects. You have that on page 93 in the Nation newspaper. Controversy over 418 million naira Paris Club refunds lingers. Page 6 captures that story. Also from the front page of the Nation, federal government NLC meet on planned strike. Page 102 has the story. Appeal court gets 9 new justices. Page 6 has the very story. And $55 million NLNG dividend. FAAC queries NNPCL. You have that on page 4 in the Nation newspaper, and of course with the picture of the NNPCL GCO Melekiari. Exporters lead forex supply. You have that on page 12 in the Nation newspaper. Kwara Governor hails nomination of Ibrahim as youth minister. Page 12 captures that very story. And also from the front page of The Nation, Nigeria to push for global tax resolution at UNGA with a rider, Tinubu speaks tomorrow. Page 4 captures that very story. 5 died, 12 injured in multiple Lagos-Ibadan highway crash. That rather sad story on page 95 in The Nation newspaper. And all right, going through The Nation newspaper, okay, also you get to see a picture right here before strike and after strike. Aerial view here of the attack, right, of 30 illegal refineries bombed. You get to see the picture of that on the front page of The Nation newspaper. And going through The Nation newspaper this morning, let's see a couple of the stories we have. We start with the dispute right here from The Nation. Dispute stalls federal government, Emefiele plea bargain talks. With double riders, suspended CBN governor may face trial, while deputy governors were dropped. There were hints yesterday that a suspended Central Bank of Nigeria, Gordon Emefiele, and other top officials of the bank may face trial after all. This follows the stalling of the plea bargain move between the federal government and the embattled Apex Bank boss. And it was learnt that Emefiele and the affected officials of the Apex Bank have not made substantial concessions on some refunds expected from them. From The Nation, dispute stalls federal government and Emefiele plea bargain talks. Away from that, also from the business page of The Nation, $55 million NNNG dividends, FAAC queries NNPCL. The Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAAC, has launched an investigation to find out what the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited did with some dividends from the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas, NNNG. The NLNG is a Nigerian natural gas company that operates in the liquefied natural gas sector. An ad hoc committee is currently reviewing and comparing the amounts due for subsidies, taxes, royalties, and other payments with the amounts that have been received or paid so far. And according to reports of the FAAC, FAC, post-mortem subcommittee for August, $275 million accrued as dividend from the NLNG. $55 million NLNG dividend, FAC, FAAC queries NNPCL. Away from that, we also have Tinubu arrives in New York for UNGA 78. President Bola Tinubu has arrived in New York for the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA 78. The Boeing 737 conveying the president and his entourage touched down in New York on Sunday. President Tinubu was received by Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Tijani Mohammed Bande, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar. And 6 governors and 7 ministers are part of President Tinubu's 17-man delegation to UNGA. Tinubu arrives New York for UNGA 78 from The Nation newspaper. And also on the UNGA summit, we have Nigerians to push for global tax resolution at UNGA with a rider. Tinubu speaks tomorrow. Nigerian permanent representative to the United Nations UN, Ambassador Tijani Mohammed Bande, yesterday said the country will continue to champion global tax cooperation discourse at the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which begins today. The Nigerian delegation, during the 77th session, presented a resolution entitled Promotion of Inclusion and Effective International Tax Cooperation at the United Nations. The resolution laid a foundation for the creation of a new system of international tax cooperation that is universal in scope and approach. And member states agreed for the first time to have a convention on tax cooperation and to discuss global tax issues and review progress yearly. Nigeria to push for global tax resolution at UNGA. The Nation captures that. And moving straight to the sports pages of The Nation newspaper, Amushan claims 3rd consecutive title at Diamond League. Having put the poor showing at the World Championships behind her, Tobi Amushan claimed the 3rd consecutive title in the women's 100 meters hurdles at the Diamond League Prefontaine Classic at Hayward Field. Amushan got out strong and held off a strong field over the final hurdles, crossing in a session best 12.33, changing Jasmine Camacho, queen of Puerto Rico, finished second in 12.38, and American Kenny Harrison was third in 12.44. World champion Daniel Williams of Jamaica finished fourth in 12.47. From the nation, Amotion claims third consecutive title at Diamond League. You get that from the sports page of the nation, and also picking a sports story here from the nation. Aruna retains African Championships title. Nigeria Quadri Aruna has retained his men's singles title after beating Egypt's Ahmed Saleh on a Sunday, September 17, in the final of the 26th ITTF African Championships in Tunis, the Tunisia capital. You get that in the Nation newspaper. Aruna retains African Championships title from the sports pages of the Nation newspaper, and that from there we draw the curtain on Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Do not forget to follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, and also turn on your alarm button to get notification of our programs. And also we can take to the doorsteps of your targeted audience your product or your services right here on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. We help advertise your product or your service. Thank you so much. I remember MODUPE AKINYOSOYE. Good morning.